with your hosts, Dana and Stephanie. Hello, thank you for joining us in another episode of Widow's Peak, episode 9. We're your hosts, Dana Holmes
and Stephanie Neal.
Joining us today, we have a special guest, male perspective from a widower. Joining us today is a good friend of mine, Lawrence Walton.
Yay!
Hi, Lawrence. Thank you for joining us.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
We really appreciate you taking out the time to talk to us. Regardless of how long it's been, I always like to extend my condolences.
Thank you so very much.
Same
to you all as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And your late wife was a very dear friend of mine and my late husband, Maisha Walton. Yes. And she was such a sweet spirit.
Yes.
So, Lawrence, share a little bit about yourself. Tell our audience a little bit about yourself and maybe just, start from the beginning. How you met your late wife and how many years you were married and how long it's been. She's
certainly. Yes, my name is Lawrence Walton. I am originally from Hartford, Connecticut. That's where I grew up at. I am 54 years old. I met Maisha. I'm just going to cut right to the chase. I met Maisha in 1998. Wow. She was just about to graduate from Howard, and I was just finishing some courses up on the campus for Bible study classes. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know that, at the time when we met, that we would pass each other on campus. The initial night that we met, this was in Washington, D.C. I pulled up to the light. Maisha pulled up with her friend. And so I'm at the light just waiting for it to turn green. I just happened to look over. And I've never been a flirt. Uh-huh. I never flirted with women. But this particular night, I flirted. I just felt like flirting. So I did a double take. And the second time I looked into their car, I pointed to Maisha. I said, I mouthed her, you're pretty. Mm-hmm. And I drove off. Because I didn't think anything of it. I drove off, pulled into the gas station, got some gas. And just before I was leaving the gas station, she pulled in with her friend because her friend was like, I told her she needs to pull in. You seem like a decent looking guy and blah, blah, blah. And so she said, Maisha said, so what is your name? I said, Larry. She said, what's your real name? I said, Lawrence. And she said, I'll try to remember that. I'll call you Lawrence. And I remember telling her that, I said to her, you have such a beautiful smile. I said, if we didn't have any lights out here tonight, your smile would light up the night. And she was like, let me tell.
Go play
it. Right.
And she was like, I see your game is tight tonight. I said, no, I'm just speaking from my heart. Uh-huh. And then I asked her, I said, well, I got to run because I got to get up in the morning. And I said, may I have your phone number? She said, I won't give you my phone number, but I'll give you my pager number because, at that time, people were still using pagers. Mm-hmm. So she gave me her two-way pager number. And a couple of days later, I called her and left a message. And the rest is history. The first time we went out, we went to Greenbelt. This Mexican restaurant called Chevy's on Greenbelt Road. Mm-hmm. It just had such a wholesome date. It was just so nice.
Yeah.
And we just hit it off from there.
She did have an electrifying smile, didn't she? Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes, she did. Honestly, she did. And shortly after that, we got married. Probably like 2 years later. We got married October the 1st, 2000. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were married for 13 and a half years. and she passed away on June the 8th, 2014 at 4:30 p.m. Right at the home we built together. We did so many beautiful things together.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like God gave us this beautiful chemistry that you couldn't even try to figure out how to get yourself. It was like, we knew God gave us that, and I really couldn't do a lot of things without her because I loved being around her. She loved being around me.
Mm-hmm.
And Dana, she was a businesswoman to her
Oh,
heart,
yes, yes.
and she was always in some type of business endeavors, and I just,
Sure.
fell right in line.
Support it. Yep. Yeah, you
And
guys had a business together.
yeah, and we did a lot of great things together. And I just remember, like, if she had to go out of town for like a day or two, how lost I felt. It was just one of those feelings that, because now I knew what my father meant. Like, if my mother was away from him for a day, it was
Mm-hmm.
like he felt lost. Of course, at that time they were married for 50 years, and so just imagine her not being here no more. It was just really, really, really tough.
Yes, yes.
And I will share this. You know, I went through a space and time where I was tormented by her death because the day that she died, she screamed out my name one last time,
Mm-hmm.
and when I got there, she died from a pulmonary embolism. It was very traumatic. So I couldn't go in the house by myself for months on end. Somebody had to be with me because every time I would enter the house, I could hear her screaming my name in my head, and I had never had that experience before. It was very tormenting,
Yeah.
and I knew, I was receiving a lot of prayer and everything. But it was one day they had a beautiful birthday party for me at a steakhouse in Annapolis,
Mm-hmm.
and somehow another after party, I got home before everybody else. Normally that wouldn't happen, and I was so tired. I was, man, I need to go to sleep. And as I'm walking through the garage, approaching the back door, I could, I went through that experience again, hearing her
Oh,
scream my
okay.
name. And and just before I opened the door, it was like the Spirit of God just rose up in me and reminded me of that scripture. And I just heard, I have not given you the spirit of fear, but of love and of power
Mm-hmm.
and of a sound mind. I heard that twice.
Yes, yes.
And the second time, it was like that whole feeling went away. And that's been uh, almost 8 years now. I've never had that tormenting feeling after
Oh,
that
good.
experience in the garage.
Oh, praise God.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yes,
And I know
yes.
it,
yeah,
the memory, it can't be easy. And it's pretty tough for you. I thank you for sharing that. And
yes, yes,
yeah.
yes. And even though that the death is gone, and we had the great memories that we had together outweighed the bad. We had
Yeah, because you guys
so
were you
that
were
was a
Christians and you were a worship leader, right? And you played
yes,
music.
yep, at the church that I was at. I was one of the worship leaders,
Mm-hmm.
and she was very instrumental in helping me and critiquing me on stage. I used to love to critique me because she wouldn't pull no punches, and
Mm-hmm.
just
No.
just just a joy to be. She was so funny,
Yes.
and then sometimes she didn't realize how funny she was. She was just, oh my god,
And her laugh made everyone else around her laugh. Yes.
yes,
Wow,
Yeah, we
wow,
and,
wow.
and
one of the
both of you
building
could
blocks.
cook too. Let's talk about the cooking too. Both of you
Oh
could
yeah,
y'all could burn.
oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But she was way better cook than I was because she was like, she said, the church mothers in California taught me how to cook, so I can outcook you.
Mm-hmm.
And and she could. She was amazing.
Yes.
and she was so well balanced. She was smart. She was a businesswoman,
Mm-hmm.
and then she can just really deal with the common people. And
Mm-hmm.
I just remember her always pouring into the next generation.
Yes.
Every time there was something that had to do with the youth,
Yeah.
she was amazing. I remember one big thing we did was in Phoenix, Arizona. We got invited to this Nike event that they had for all the best girl basketball players around the country.
Mm-hmm.
And she got hired to teach technology to all those students for 3 days. The ones that wanted to know about technology.
Yeah. Wow.
And yeah, and she did something that really amazed me. Like I remember it was a class about 45 kids, and she went around and had everybody say their name.
Mm-hmm.
And when they got done, she remembered everybody's name. I saw her do
What?
that many times. Yes,
Wow.
that that really. I was like,
Impressive.
"How did you do that?" She said, "I always could do that." I
Wow.
said, "What?"
Beauty
Yeah,
and
she went around,
brains.
and the kids was yes,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Just many great memories that we had together.
Sure.
Just building the business, and one of the building blocks of our relationship. We didn't stay mad at each other, and we always laughed. We
Mm-hmm.
always was cracking jokes. Of course, when it was time for business, we handled that, but we always made time to
That's
laugh all the
that's
time.
wonderful.
And yeah, yeah. So I really, really miss that.
Yeah. She made
I
everyone
really,
around
really,
her feel just as bright, smart, talented.
yes,
Just she really brought that out of people. And
yep. She
I
did.
I remember when she was selling Pampered Chef. Every time, and I have
Yes.
several things that I purchased from her, and I have the
Mm,
ice cream scooper. Like when you hold it in your hand, it warms it. It warms the scooper so the ice
yes.
cream doesn't stick. So every time I use
Exactly.
that, I think of her. I think of her. It
Mm.
was so impressive when she showed me how to use it. I was like, I gotta have that.
Right. Right.
Wow.
Exactly.
So tell us, Lawrence. Um, so how was it? You said it's been how many years now since Maisha's passing?
June, June, June the 8th this year will be 8 years.
8 years. And did you
Yep.
how long did you remain in your home
Oh,
after
I got out of it. Oh, I got out of there as soon as I could because because
the
she passed
memories?
away in the house, so it was like even though we had great memories in it, I just couldn't take that.
Sure.
But I couldn't stay there.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, I had to get out of Maryland because it was like everywhere. It was like we painted the town with a lot of great memories, even though I had to leave. And in my church, they wanted me to stay.
Mm-hmm.
It was like so many people wanted me to stay, but I couldn't do it.
Right. Right. Too much memory.
Yeah, I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so, after you said after a year or two, and you sold the home, did you move away, or did you seek counseling? Did you tell us about those
Uh,
years following?
okay. Well, actually, 2 years after she passed, I moved out of Maryland. I moved to Kentucky. But while I was there, I moved in with my aunt and my uncle, and I changed professions because I was a field technician for Dell Computers, and I went through a phase that I just didn't want to be around a lot of people, and I had to deal with people
Mm-hmm.
because I'm going in all of these government buildings and working on Capitol Hill and all that kind of stuff. And I stepped away from it and
Mm-hmm.
I started painting houses with my uncle. And my uncle and